Welcome back, everybody. So listen, there is no doubt about it. We Canadians are feeling the pinch when it comes to inflation. And in an effort to rein things in, the Bank of Canada has continued to hike interest rates. They did so for the 6th time this year, and it probably won't be the last hike.
So what do we need to know to weather these turbulent economic times to help calm our fears? We have money expert Robin Thompson back on the show. Welcome back.
So let's dive right in.
Yeah.
Why is the Bank of Canada continuing to raise hikes, to raise interest rates? Like, what's the goal here?
So when we think about interest rates rising, what they're trying to do is bring down inflation. So inflation is the increase in cost of goods. So what happens in an inflationary environment is that prices are in fact inflated. So when there is demand, and the demand and the supply do not equal each other, you can raise your prices because they don't match. So what the government is trying to do is trying to bring down inflation, which is at 6.9%, by increasing interest rates. So that's what they're trying to do. Why would they do that? What happens if you have to borrow money that costs more? You're gonna borrow less, which means you're gonna buy less, which means there's gonna be less inflation in the economy.
Okay, so the question I had was, we saw the 6th rate hike. There's signals that there are going to be more. Is there an end in sight?
Is there an end in sight? Anybody think there's an end in sight in here? All right, no, a lot of no's in the audience. I think that they're going to increase rates on December 7th, which is the next interest rate announcement. I think we're going up by 1/4 basis point. Yes, I do. I think that after that, they may take a pause. I think they may take a pause and see how this gets into the economy. It usually takes about 6 months for the trickle-down effect of interest rates rising to actually impact the economy. I don't know if it's going to end in the new year. We may get a few more. It depends what happens with inflation. The target rate of inflation is 2%. We are at 6.9. So there's a gap there, right? So we need to be prepared for what that means.
Okay. Well, the most direct impact of the increases so far has definitely been on the mortgage market, where the price to borrow money has roughly tripled since February of this year. So in our present economic climate, like, what's the best kind of mortgage to apply for right now?
Anybody have any math anxiety around this? Right? Like, what are we talking about here? So there's variable rate mortgages and there's fixed mortgages. So a variable rate mortgage essentially means that your mortgage is going to be tied to the overnight rate. So if rates increase, your mortgage is going to increase. If you're in a fixed rate, that number is going to stay the same during the time of the mortgage. So here's the two things to take consideration of. Number one, variable rate over the term of a mortgage always wins against fixed. You will pay less money in interest in a variable rate mortgage. But what's going to happen is that if rates increase and you are on this razor edge of cash flow, a lot of people here looking at their cash flow going, oh my God, right? Then you need to consider, can I make these payments, right?
Right.
And if you're fixed and you actually have your mortgage at 1.9%, which is where it used to be, and all of a sudden in 2 years you have to renew at 5% or more, what is that going to do? Can you make those payments? It's a really big concern.
Okay, I personally, since you're here, I'm going to ask you a few questions about it.
Absolutely.
I'm in a variable mortgage, and I'm in year 2 of a 5-year mortgage. Maybe I'm a year and a half in. We just renewed. So variable, and I just keep calling my guy going, do I lock in? Do I lock in? What do I do? Because rates keep going up, and I'm variable, and we're getting ding, ding, ding. So what do I need to keep in mind to help make that decision?
I'm actually also 2 years into my variable rate mortgage. So I think that if we have variable rate mortgages, we feel that in at the end of the month, we see what that looks like. So the question about locking in really comes down to, what does your cash flow look like? Can you withstand more increases, higher costs at the end of each month? And is it going to choke you? Because right now, it is a really hard time for a lot of Canadians when it comes to their finances. So if you can manage the additional payments, then you should stay with variable, because over the length of the mortgage, you're going to pay less in interest. And who wants to pay more money in interest to the government? Nobody, right? No, that's a really good answer, So it really comes down to what you can afford.
Okay, so is this me? Am I answering? Is this my question? Okay, great. Following up on home ownership, Robin, if I'm a homeowner, should I be looking to access equity in my home to help pay down debt?
It's a really great question, because I get it all the time from people that come into my office. And when you think about you think about your home equity. So you have a house. We have a house, and beside it we have something that's called a HELOC, which stands for Home Equity Line of Credit. And then over here you have things like credit card debts. That has interest about 19-20%. whereas the HELOC's about 6%. So ideally, you say, I'm going to take money out of my home equity line of credit, and I'm going to pay my 19% interest rate and put that money on the HELOC, because now you're paying less money in interest, right? So that makes a lot of sense from a logical perspective. But where we are right now in the world is that house prices are falling. Across the country, we've seen house prices fall. So if you have house prices falling and you're taking money out of your home equity line of credit and you're paying down credit cards, what happens if you're in an emergency and you need to sell your place? What happens if you have too much debt and your house value can no longer cover the value of your home? So you need to look at it from that perspective. And then you need to say, okay, well, sure, I should definitely pay less money in interest. Look at a personal line of credit, which is probably about 7%, a lot better than 19%, but keep the value of your home intact. Because right now, I don't know about you guys, but we all kind of need to stay above water for the next little while, right?
Yeah.
Right? Let's be real. It's a really hard time.
I don't even know if there's room for this question, but we'll ask it because I think some people are asking, is now a time at all to try to be saving money at all? I know there's something called the 50-30-20 rule when it comes to budgeting. First of all, what does that mean? And then break down, where does savings fit into all of this?
I'm always going to tell you to be saving and investing because that is how you're going to build wealth over the longer term. So 50-30-20, 50% of the money you've got coming into your household should go towards your fixed cost, your mortgage, your rent, your keeping the lights on, your groceries. And then you should have 30% that's going to go towards disposables. So these are going to be things like travel or shopping or some of the more fun things you have. And then 20% is going to go towards debt repayment, and it's going to go towards your future self, your emergency funds, your savings. So right now, with inflation, you're likely going to shrink that part, which is the disposable, and you're going to put it more towards fixed cost because it's costing a lot more money to live right now. So you're going to see some reduction on that side. Do I recommend that you stop saving? Absolutely not. Do you want to know why? Anybody want to know why? Because what happens if you get into trouble and you don't have the margin of error or margin of safety and you lose your job if we go into a recession and things keep escalating? You need to have enough to say, you know what? No matter what happens in the next 6 months, I'm going to be okay. We got this.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Also a wild question.
Yes.
Are there any benefits to interest rates going up and up and up?
Yes, there is benefits to interest rates going up. Anything that you have, like a guaranteed investment certificate or your savings account, your high interest savings accounts, will benefit from rising rates. So right now, GICs are about 4.65%. We're seeing about 2% in high interest savings accounts. The stock markets have been beaten down. If you've been watching what the markets look like, we've got the TSX, which is our index here in Canada. It's off about 8.5% for the year. The US market's close to 20%. That NASDAQ, which is the tech-heavy industry or market in the States, is down 30%. So if you look at your money and say, I have money in my RSPs and it's sitting in cash, but I have 20 years, things are on sale. Let's take a look at things that are on sale. What's my risk tolerance? What can I afford to invest so that in the future, I have more wealth? It's about looking at it.
So good.
It's so good. And it's behavior, ladies. Like the number one thing with money is that being good with money is more about how you behave and less about the numbers.
Yes, Robin.
So let's focus on our behaviors.
Good. We needed this. We needed a little bit of uplifting ideas. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Thanks.